afternoon, everyone. Our briefing today is from our corporate sponsor of Sundowners. We welcome the team from Lexicon, and they're going to be talking about online marketing, strategy, storytelling, and tech, the essentials for 2021. It's still a few months away, but the year we've had, it's going to be on us in no time. Before we begin, I'd also like to thank our venue sponsor, of course, the wonderful people here at the Westin Grand Sukhumvit. So we move into storytelling. David Norcross, once upon a time.
Thanks, mate. So hello, everybody. It's good to see you all physically, not just on Zoom, after a long time at home. So I'm here today with two of my colleagues, and we're going to try and give you a short overview of three pretty big topics. All of them connect back to storytelling and why it needs to be part of your strategy for 2021 and beyond. So I will speak to you first about what the essentials of a good strategy are. Then I'll hand over to my colleague Justin, who will give you a 7-step formula you can start to apply tomorrow to improve your marketing. And then finally, my colleague Max will take over and show you what you need to be doing with your tech, with your websites, with your apps, and what comes next. So we're going to try and talk for just 30 minutes and leave open 10 or 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So please save any questions you have until then. Why are we qualified to talk about this subject? So what Lexicon does is digital PR and brand storytelling. Those words may sound familiar, but also unclear at the same time. What that essentially means is that what we do for our clients is to help them to understand their brand, their own brand, and their audience. Then we create all of the content they need to engage that audience online. So everything is done in-house, from strategy to content writing to video production, animation, illustration, website design, apps, all under one roof, with a talented, internationally minded team of 35 people operating out of Sarawak. So that's why we're qualified. So digital PR is what comes next for marketing. So obviously we've seen over the years, print, TV, radio, online, where the industry is going is that these things are all converging. So you're not going to have 5 agencies next year or the year after, you'll have one. And that one agency will do your SEO, your targeted advertising, but also your creative. So that's a good thing for you because it means less agency partners to deal with. Another good thing about digital PR is if you get it right, you don't just spend as much on advertising because you're creating stories that are designed to resonate with your perfect target audience. You can do that through your business channels, but also through your personal, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is. The key strategy that you need to use and that we use is brand storytelling. And Justin will tell you more about that in his section. Essentially, there are 5 key reasons to use it. The most important one is it's real. There is content shock, content overload. People are looking for authenticity. They want to know more about your business, what you stand for, who are your people, how do you treat your people. That's been even more evident this year, as many companies have been closing down or shutting shop. The stories that they tell online are what keeps their business alive into next year. So the key mindset that you need to change is change from trying to sell constantly to telling your story. You'll end up at the same point anyway, but it'll cost you a lot less to get there. So identify your audience, find out where they are, find out what they want to know about your business, and help them. Help them understand what you can do. So when it comes to success with a storytelling-driven digital PR campaign, there are many key factors. Knowing the audience, knowing your brand, setting KPIs, a million different factors, but all of them come back to strategy. Companies that don't succeed because they don't have a strategy. Now, you can have the best story in the world, but without a plan, it's going to fall apart. You're going to have to work with multiple different stakeholders. They need to understand the same thing. So storytelling looks like this. It's the most boring part of the process, unfortunately, but it's taking the time to work with your team, with agency partners, to document success, to document your brand. to build a repository of the story of your brand. With Lexicon, we cover 10 key steps in every strategy. A strategy document is about 100 pages usually, which covers the essentials of your brand, your logo, your typeface, your tone of voice, your key people, your services. Does some audience research, whether that's focus groups or desktop research. It gives you insights into your audience. So what are their demographics, their ages, their locations, their interests. With a clear sense of your brand and a clear sense of your audience, you pretty much can't fail because you know exactly what to do. The rest of the strategy then is showing you how to get there. So 3 is about messaging. What are your campaigns? What are your big ideas? What are the stories you want to tell? 4 is about the output, videos, illustrations, animations. 5 and 6 are about the media that you own, so your social media, your blog even. 7 and 8 are outreach. So how can you amplify your message by getting your content shared by Brendan and his team, by the Bangkok Post? Where is your audience? Make sure you, wherever they are, you're there too. And the final and perhaps most important part is measuring success. So what are the KPIs? Is it SEO, Google rankings? Is it sales, engagement, page visits? With all of that information, you're going to succeed. And it's not just that you'll succeed, but you'll be able to measure the success of others too. So it takes a while to build a strategy, but it saves you a lot more time in the future. So when you're looking to build a strategy, I don't have time to get into all 10 steps because I have 4 minutes, but one of the key things is to personify your brand. So if your brand was a person, what would it look like? What would it sound like? What kind of language would it use? How would it dress? This is a real example from a real client that they're looking to be technologically knowledgeable, but also young, friendly, accessible. If you can personify your brand either as a person with some insights or through more formal mission, vision, value statements, it helps you to speak consistently with a clear personality. The other key factor to consider is the key messaging and big idea. This often comes back to your mission statement, but what is the key story you're trying to tell with your brand? So some of these are very famous. Take Nike, for example. So Nike, obviously, they're looking to inspire sports people to buy their shoes, buy their clothes. Having a strong key message and big idea means that you can quite easily pivot. So when you have something like COVID happen, of course, there's no sports events anymore. But Nike can easily take this and make it home sports. They can talk about how you can use your shoes to run around a house or do pull-ups or the Nike official sports equipment. So a key message or a big idea is the key thing that unites all of the stories that you're trying to tell. Understanding your audience is also key because you need to know the questions that they have about your business so you can try to help them. So if you're in recruitment, what do they need to know? If you're in coaching or counseling, what are the key things that your audience comes to you and asks? Now, this is a thing you can figure out by yourself quite easily, to be honest. Think about the average customer that you deal with. How old are they? Where do they live? What are their interests? And what are the most common questions they ask you about your business? That should be part of your strategy, answering those questions. Another great benefit of doing this kind of research is that you can target them very easily through social media. So having a clear sense of your audience means that you can craft messaging that resonates with them, but it also means that whether through Facebook or Google or LinkedIn, you can make sure that you reach them specifically. That can save you a lot of money in the long term. You don't need to speak to 65 million people. It might be 400 people. If you can get that right, that's going to cost you 500 baht. So any kind of return on investment you get from that is going to be strong. Okay, 1.5 minutes. All right, so the key message that I want you to get from today is that you need to build a content calendar at the very least. So strategy contains content calendar, but if you don't have a regular plan for what to put out, I guarantee you it will fail. So I'll show you a few examples, but for this client, each day of the week, they focus on a different product line. So it's cars on Monday, equipment on Tuesday, financial services on Thursday. It's a big company, they do many things. So they want to combine sales with storytelling. And that's possible too. Rather than just say, buy our car, let's meet the people who work at the factory. Let's meet the engineers who put it all together. For the financial services, maybe we don't want to talk about the things we're selling, rather the success that we have, the people that are making their life better, the testimonials, the case studies. For this brand, they're dedicating every Monday to telling the story of their brand, their history, their values, their mission. Every Friday, community, the people buying their products, the activities they're having. All of this is designed to create a community around their brand so that it's easy to sell when the time is right. And here's a behind the scenes look at what Lexicon does. This is our real content calendar. So this is the dry part of the process. Justin's going to show us the more exciting part soon, but for us, everything we do is planned a month ahead. So we're very active on social media, but it's not because we're just coming up with ideas. Everything is part of a strategy that we plan a year ahead. Okay, so in summary, a clear strategy allows for you to have consistency in your tone and style. If you have 10 people in your marketing department and they're not sure what your corporate color is or how to use your logo or what the right template is, you're going to look different every day. Your brand will look schizophrenic. Also, it's essential that you work with partners who understand exactly what you're trying to achieve. A documented strategy makes it very easy for you to achieve that. Just say, look at page 26, look at page 38, literally on the same page. So if you have a documented vision of what success looks like, you can't go wrong. And again, planning weeks and months ahead. Lexicon exists because I was working at KPMG for many years. And while I was there, they have the most talented people in their industry in the country. But all the people that work there are really busy. So they don't have time to write an article for next week. They might have time to write one for 3 months from now. So if you can say, we need a tax article to be ready in January, okay, that's fine. So planning a strategy allows you to plan ahead, make sure stuff gets done. And frequency of output, like I showed you earlier, a clear calendar means that every Monday can be one theme, every Tuesday can be another theme. It teaches your audience what to expect from you and when. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, it helps you to not only document your KPIs, but work on a roadmap that everybody can understand. Key thing is, don't take it all too seriously. Brand storytelling is a fun process. Once you understand it, it's much more interesting for you and for your audience than standard marketing. It's telling the story of your brand, your origins, your people, your successes, your lessons. So don't be afraid to show your personal side, especially with a very cute dog. So I've run over a little bit here, but I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Justin. So Justin is a senior storyteller at Lexicon. He's going to show you a 7-step process you can start to apply today to improve your marketing.
All right, thank you, David. I've got to follow the cute dog now. This is fun. Okay, so now that we have our brand persona, we've identified our target audience, we have a comprehensive strategy, it's time to start creating some fun storytelling content that will entice your audience and hopefully win you some new customers. But we have a problem, all right? We're bombarded with advertising every single day. Most of us, we just tune it out. It's just noise to us. So how do we stand out from the competition? How do we break through the noise? 2 things. All right, we need to keep it simple and we need structure. So before you get started with any kind of storytelling, you need to be able to answer these 3 questions for your audience. These will be the fundamental questions that they'll have. What do you offer? Why do I need it? Where can I get it? All right, you need to explain it in simple enough terms that even a caveman would understand it. So the example here is Tylenol, right? Okay, you sell Tylenol? Make my headache go away? Me buy at pharmacy? Right, that's the grunt test. So you need to make sure that your brand, whatever you're selling, as complex as you may think it may be, you need to be able to answer these 3 questions. Then you're ready to start creating stories. Now, it would help if we had a framework. Fortunately, we already do. We have the hero's journey. The hero's journey is timeless. It works in a classic novel. It works in an episode of Rick and Morty, and it can work in your marketing content. All right, here it is in 7 steps. You can break it down in many different ways. Joseph Campbell has 12 steps. Dan Harmon has 8. For our purposes here, we're going to use Donald Miller. He's got 7 steps. Okay, we have a character, the hero, who has a problem, meets a guide, who gives them a plan, calls them to action that helps them avoid failure and results in success. So that structure underpins everything we do at Lexicon. We're not going to go through every single step in every piece of content, but it doesn't matter what we're creating, a caption, an animated video, a documentary style video, even a green screen video here with the Impasco. Some of you may have seen this. No? All right. The 7-step framework undergirds all of that, all right? So let's get into the details a little bit here. So number 1, we start with the hero. This is the most important part of my little bit here. The customer is always the hero. The customer is the hero of the story that you want to tell. Why? We'll get into that. If you make yourself the hero of the story, you're making a mistake, right? If you start bragging about how amazing your brand is, okay, you may have the biggest factory in the country. You may be number 1 in sales. You might be number 1 in production. That's all well and good, but your audience will end up saying, that don't impress me much. Yeah, all right, most of you know Shania Twain. This is good. I gave a version of this presentation to my coworkers at Lexicon, and they're all in their 20s. They had no idea who Shania Twain was.
Can you sing a few more lines too?
Yeah, do you want to come up here? We can do the karaoke portion.
Do it.
But why this song stuck with me is like, all right, so first of all, that don't impress me much. I heard, I was like, she's Canadian. Why does she sound like she's from Alabama? That's weird. Also, if you listen to the song, she goes, okay, so you're Brad Pitt. That don't impress me much, right? And the other part of the song, where she's like, okay, so you're a rocket scientist. That don't, like, Shania Twain, that's very impressive. What's wrong with you? Like, this woman is difficult to impress. Brad Pitt is a tremendous actor. To be a rocket scientist, you have to go to school for many years. You have to be really smart. But this doesn't impress Shania Twain. Why? Because they're just bragging about themselves. This won't keep her warm at night, right? And this is what your audience is thinking when you address them. What are you going to do for them? They don't care how impressive you think you are to yourself. They want to know what you're going to do for them, all right? So, second part of the structure, your hero has a problem. It's not a story unless there's conflict, all right? Conflict can have 3 levels here, external, internal, and philosophical. Let's say you're selling financial services of some kind. The external problem would be, I don't have a retirement plan. I'm not saving for my retirement, right? The internal problem would be that this makes me worried about my future. The philosophical look at this would be, I deserve a financial planner that can help me get there. All right, do you guys see what I'm saying? I think so. So you're all business leaders, and right now, what is the main problem that all your customers are facing? Doesn't matter what kind of services or products you're offering, everybody's kind of worried about the same thing right now, COVID, right? And the economic impacts of it. So the external problem, we've got a global pandemic, the economy's in big trouble. The internal problem, that makes me worried about the future. Philosophically, I need somebody that's going to show me the way forward. That's where you come in. You're the guide, okay? You're not the hero of the story, you're the guide. You don't want to be Luke Skywalker, you want to be Yoda. You don't want to be Frodo, you want to be Gandalf. Okay, why? Because the guide is the strongest person in the story. The guide is the strongest character. The hero has problems. They're full of doubt. They're unsure about the future. The guide has a plan. The guide has been there before. All right, the guide knows all. Okay? In order to be a proper guide, though, you need to show both empathy and authority. Empathy, you understand their problem, you understand what they're going through. Authority, you can show that through testimonials, case studies, all of this kind of stuff. So now it's okay to brag a little bit once you've established them as the hero and you as the guide. Next step is you give them a plan. We need to show the customer where we're going to take you. And there needs to be a clear goal at the end. Just as an example here, imagine if John F. Kennedy, instead of saying, we're going to put a man on the moon, imagine he had said, we're going to develop a highly competitive and ambitious space program. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it? All right, so let's have a clear plan with a clear goal. And then we call to action, okay? Your clients will not take action unless you entice them to do so, unless you challenge them to do so. If you believe in your products and services, make your call to action loud and clear. There are two types, call to action direct and transitional. So direct, buy now, download the white paper, schedule an appointment, transitional, blogs, testimonials, case studies, okay? The direct call to action is like saying, will you marry me? Okay, the transitional is more like saying, will you go on a date with me? Okay, now this is why, Max will get into this, but this is why having a website is so tremendously important, because all your pieces of content will have calls to action, read more, click here, but all of this stuff lives on your website. Buy now could be in the e-commerce section, download the white paper in some registration section, schedule an appointment, contact us. But if they're not ready for that yet, if you're not there in the relationship with your client, the transitional part of your website becomes extremely important. Your blogs, your testimonials, your case studies, those are all dates that you can go on with your potential customer until they're ready to marry you. The next step is give them a little taste of what failure looks like. This is the so what factor, right? If I don't follow you and your plan, what happens? You don't want to dwell on this part too much, but it is kind of the salt of the recipe. You put in too much, it'll spoil the meal. Just the right amount will make it nice and tasty. Finally, your story ends in success. Your hero has completed their transformation. You've taken Mr. Anderson, boring guy at the office, and now he's Neo, savior of the world. All right? Happy ending. Now, let's revisit this. Think to yourself, does your brand pass the grunt test? Can your brand pass the grunt test? All right. Doesn't matter how complicated it is. You could sell professional services outsourcing. All right? You sell professional services, make me save money, grow business, me buy on website. All right? There, Grant Thornton just passed the grunt test. Okay, so, but remember, once you've figured out your grunt test, you passed that, remember the 7 steps. Everything you create, if you use that as a framework, it should be successful. Your clients will see that and instinctively relate to it because it's following the timeless hero's journey. Now, the stories we tell will stay the same. This framework was here with us 1,000 years ago. It's here with us today. It'll be here next year. It'll be with us 1,000 years from now, most likely. But the technology that we use to tell these stories is constantly changing and evolving, and that's where my colleague Max comes in. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about website, obviously, which is your primary online estate. This is where your brand lives. This is basically your online home. This is where customers come to knock at the door when they want to know more and learn more about what you do. And there is 3 pillars about having a good website. First of all, it's having organized content. You cannot just keep adding pages. It has to be organized. And the website structure has to support this content. Like, people should know where to go naturally when they look for something. They shouldn't have to go through 10 pages before they find where the date takes place. And finally, you need a good strategy and clear brand guidelines. This is what's going to give color and structure to your content. This is what makes your website feel alive. And this is the decoration in your home if you want. So there was different talks going on, I think maybe 10 years ago. Will websites survive? Is everything gonna move online on Facebook, on Google or whatnot? I think by now we know that there are trends, but the website is always there, the website survives. So you need a good website. This is what we did for AustCham, and it was, again, great collaborating with you guys. Clear call to action, fresh content. Again, you need to be, people come to your website to see what's happening. You need to have the ability to put content out there and to keep it fresh. Website needs to be, of course, mobile ready. If everyone tells you that this kind of thing is automatic and it just works on mobile, they're probably lying, or it's going to look very bad. It does take time to make your website mobile ready, and in Asia and all over the world, everybody's going to be looking at your website on their phone, so it has to work well on the phone again. Updates, so this is, I think, your own page. You did that yourself, so this is another example that you need to be able to put content yourself on your website. It needs to be easy to put things online because you need to react to global pandemic or whatever is happening. So you need to be able to update the content yourself. And if you're selling events or products, you also need to have that on your website. Everything should be listed and up to date. There is nothing worse than coming to a website and not finding the product that was advertised on a social media campaign, for example. Of course, the last step to that is payments. You need to be able to accept online payments. It needs to be easy. Nobody wants to be inputting their credit cards over and over. This is the marriage step, so it needs to be flawless. And there you have it, I already talked about that. Security is also very important. You don't want anyone to come in your home uninvited. So make sure to have proper security updates, security updates, and a strong password, no lexicon 123.
Sorry, Max.
So those are the important parts of your website, which is completed by social media platforms. So this adds on to your website, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Google. This is your way to reach a larger audience, but it has to be targeted. If you're posting something on Instagram or on TikTok or on Facebook, it's not the same content, it's not the same demographic. So you have to be able to adapt your content. And a little note that video and animated posters are a great way to catch your audience in all the noise. So the social media platform is your place for storytelling, for campaigns, for fun. This is basically the street. If the website was your home, the social media platform is where you bump into the brand randomly when you're taking a walk. So the future, what is coming for 2021? So we're going to look at what's already there. All these technologies already exist, but it's not really the prime time. So augmented reality, virtual reality, the ability for customers to experience before they buy. I'm pretty sure that in 3 to 5 years from now, Apple will have their smart glasses. So this is probably what ads will be looking like. And this is already happening, right? But you would have to take your phone to look at this poster. So not really practical, but soon you will have glasses on your head that will let you see image in 3 dimensions that are put on top of reality. I'm pretty sure that in 10 years, we won't have a smartphone anymore. We'll just have glasses that show augmented reality. Voice search, very important as well. My parents have no idea how to use Google Maps, but they can ask Alexa to order something, right? So it's incredibly easy to be on voice search. You just have to register your business on Google Business or Facebook, and yeah, you don't want to miss that opportunity. beacons, Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi, this is already something, but if you're in retail, if you have a physical stores, physical location, you can detect when your customers are into your store, and you can send them promotional messages on their phone. For example, if you're using Line, you could send them a Line message when they visit your branch and be, hey, check out this promotion, and they will get the message on their phone. And we're going to see more and more on that, because targeting becomes more and more efficient, especially with 5G. You will be able to know where people are in a building, for example. So things are moving forward on that too. And finally, a little bit more technical, blockchain for privacy. So there is increased concern about personal data. I think we're going to see more and more blockchain. We're going to have a bigger role in protecting your personal data. So you're going to have to seek really consent from your customers. You won't be able to steal their personal data, or Google won't be able to do that, so you won't be able to take advantage of it. So in order to keep access to this personal data, you're going to have to earn your customer trust. And how do you do that? It's always the same: brand strategy and storytelling. All right, thank you very much. I think if you have some questions, we're going to have a little bit more time.
Thanks, guys. So as you see, Lexicon did do the website for AustCham, and we are very happy with it. What they didn't mention is back in 2017, I found AustCham, Stuart Kelly will agree with this, our digital assets were very limited, and through our digital communications team back then, which Dave was an important part of, we certainly were able to improve those as well. So we thank Lexicon a lot for that too, particularly the storytelling side. Questions?
You've obviously got a lot of our members, that you know quite well, and some of them are probably even clients. In fact, I know some of them are. How have they been responding in the middle of COVID? Because we're talking about the difference between paid media, which is advertising commonly, and earned media, which is a lot of what you guys do, which is classic PR, which is basically how do we get publicity for free. How have you seen that playing out in the last few months?
So we work with a lot of different industries. For our hospitality clients, a lot of them have gone completely quiet. They've been cutting staff, they've been cutting overheads, so a lot of them have just gone completely quiet. But for other industries, it's kind of a good time, to be honest. Professional services companies especially are doing a lot. I've been happy to see that companies have been leaning a lot more on storytelling because budgets are limited. They're trying to create content that's more engaging, genuinely more engaging. It's been a lot more personal branding as well. We've been seeing the stories of the CEOs and the managing directors and the challenges they're facing and how they're overcoming them. There's a lot of brands that I follow that I'm seeing more about their business than I ever saw before. And what that shows me is that they have longevity. They're here to stay. Adverts can stop, but I think all of us are looking for the human connection. So the more we can see about not just the products that they're selling, but how those products are made, the people that are involved. So actually some of our clients have massively cut down their marketing departments, but they haven't cut down their spend with us because I think that's where the industry is going. It's more towards, as you said, less paid media, more earned media, and storytelling is the perfect way to achieve that.
With the growth in the low-code, no-code app solutions, and I've seen a push in geofencing for push notifications. I'm just wondering how you see that playing out, because it's quite different to Facebook, etc.
It's actually possible through existing platforms like Line to register beacons that will recognize your customer, right? So you register a beacon saying, I am the Lexicon beacon, and when people pass it, if they're following you, they would get the targeted advertising. So it's different from geofencing from what you could get on Facebook for ads, for example. It's not really demographics. It's really like a location, like 5 meters radius on a physical retail store, for example. Does that answer the question?
If I just add a little bit more. So what I've seen, I'm not an expert like you guys, what I've seen is that with the growth of the low-code, no-code solutions, they're fitting in between Facebook and beacons. With the beacon, you have to buy something. With the solutions available to low-code, no-code, you can actually set your geofence 500 meters, a kilometer, whatever you want. So you get all the benefits of the beacon, but without the expense and investment, etc. So I'm just curious what you're seeing, because I think this is quite new, I think.
Yeah, again, the technology will keep evolving. I mentioned Bluetooth, there is Wi-Fi beacon, there will be for sure 5G tracking as well. So I agree, the technology will get better and evolve, but the way of doing it is still the same.
Just wanted to ask a question, what your thoughts are on mobile apps. Does that come into this forum at all, or do you think that's the way of bringing in new customers, or is it just the ones you've got that will use it?
I'm convinced that people are starting to get fed up with the number of apps they have on their phone. So unless there is a strong advantage of using your app, they might not download it. So I think it is most of the time for your existing customers, unless you're doing something very special. There are alternatives to that. For example, the Line platform will let you build micro application that lives into Line. So people don't have to install an app. They would just find your app inside the Line conversation. So again, there are different technologies for that. But an application, a phone application, is a big investment to maintain as well. So I think it's only good for your existing customers. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, I think especially with regards to specific things that you want to do, like we're working with a client right now who's basically using an app purely for event booking. So rather than do it through the website, they're saying if you want to book an event, download a specific app and run it through that. So I think it's making the website run quicker and also trying to control the narrative more, because once they're in the app, you can upsell and do other things too. So that's what our experience is showing so far.
All right, just following on from that then, apps to replace landing pages, is that the idea?
I think apps will replace specific functions on a website, but I don't see websites going away anytime soon. I think what we've seen this year is that the talk of the demise of the website was way too premature. As the world has gone remote, websites are more important now than they were ever. So the hottest technology of 2021 is the same technology as 1997. I think the website is going to be here for a long time. As Max said, I think people are getting bored of having too many apps. But if you're, like say AustCham, for example, AustCham would be a perfect candidate for an app. So member news, special offers, events, stuff that is updated much more frequently than you would run on a website. But I think landing pages for advertising are here to stay because of all the different functions they come with, retargeting and all the other things that they can do.
Better than for a high volume membership?
For example?
Well, AustCham's what, 500 members or 1,000 members or 10,000 members? What about if they've got 15 members?
It's cost.
Financially, it's not viable.
Well, if 15 members are spending $1 million per purchase,
It's viable.
yeah. Yeah, it depends on the function, right? It's not for everything, but if there's a specific function that the app makes better, make an app.
I'm just a bit curious. Storytelling is obviously culturally specific and sensitive, and as it goes across wider borders, how do you manage to be aware of that kind of thing? It can be quite sensitive, or even specific also.
That is a great question. The storytelling framework that we're talking about here is very much in a Western context. So I would almost be curious to hear what you have to say about this, because I don't know that much about Eastern stories, but my instinct would be that the hero's journey is kind of universal. It's something that connects to people just at our core, right? It's the hero's journey, it's timeless. So David, I don't know, maybe you have something to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I echo that. I think the the structure never changes, the input changes. So every client that we ever worked with follows the same 10 steps, but the input is always different. So if you look at the Thai, those Thai commercials that make you cry, the insurance companies, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't write that for sure, but my team could. Us were great, I hope, in English, but I think with storytelling, it's a very emotive and emotional experience. So you need specialists in that language to achieve it, but the formula can remain the same. So those advertisements are wonderful storytelling. And each of them is the same kind of thing, right? Think about the little boy who steals the medicine. He's the hero of the story, right? The doctor ultimately becomes his guide, shows him his way to success. So the formula still resonates, but absolutely cultural sensitivity determines success. So understanding the audience to craft the right message for that audience. Strategy.
I agree with Dave. Those commercials are amazing. They do make you cry. I'm not sure they passed the grunt test because you get to the end of it and then you find out, oh, it's for insurance. I didn't even know. I thought it was a boy stealing medicine. I don't get it. But anyway, thank you for your question.
So my question really is, I guess, for us who rely on a lot of inbound business. So we're looking to sort of target companies, people in Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. How do you as a business help your clients with that? Do you team up with media companies in those locations to help you out, to translate, to craft messages which are relevant to those countries? And also, if you ever see a Chinese or a Japanese website, the information is totally is set out in a very different way. For us, it might sort of look quite ugly, but actually for them, they want information set out for them in just simply a different way. They like to have all the information there in front of them. So how do you kind of get over those sort of issues?
So every client that we work with is different. None of us are experts in international schools or recruitment, chambers of commerce. We're not experts in any of those areas, but that's why the strategy part is so important. We need to understand the context that we're operating in. So we know the story that we want to tell. We want to say we have the best school in the best city in Bangkok, Nichidaratani. But that might not be the story that audience needs to hear, right? So we need to understand either through market research, competitor analysis, what does that audience need to see from you? It might not be what we think it is. So focus groups, situational analysis, those things guide our decision making. Our creativity can come after that, but the strategy bit lays the foundations through which we can, I don't want to say copy, because that's not a nice word, but emulate what is already working and try and adapt it to the particular situation.
Technical question. You mentioned in your presentation at the end, and it might not just be you, but be all of you, KPIs and metrics and how you measure. I'd like to hear a little bit about your thoughts on how you do that, because if you're running any sort of campaign, you've got to know if it's working. Because if it's not working, you stop it, you change it, and whatever. So that's the first part of the question. The second part is, with technologies, data mining, AI, etc., how is that available to, you've got companies like Google, etc., that have millions and millions of dollars to spend on this. Smaller companies don't. So how can you use those technologies?
Who's your target audience?
Who's the target audience?
Who are you trying to connect to?
Businesses in Thailand.
Okay. How can we narrow that down? What kind of businesses? Is it pharmaceutical, industrial, factory?
We go across a number of different industries, so I can't say just one.
Okay.
If you look at health, financial services, logistics, etc. So we target a number of different industries, and therefore we're looking at each of those. But apart from finding the information about them, we need to know whether we're doing something. Is it success? How do you measure success?
Okay. So start off with the goal. So is it sales? Is it inquiries? Is it about reach and awareness? Is it about where you're ranking on Google? If you identify what success looks like, any agency that you work with can develop a strategy for that. So if it's, if you're selling widgets, run adverts on Google, these are the best widgets in town. You can measure how much you're spending versus how much you're getting back. Same thing with Facebook, LinkedIn. Any of those things, you can measure cost per acquisition. If it's more about reaching the right audience and building awareness, there's a different metric for that. So that's why the strategy bit's so important. Try and figure out at the start, what does success look like for you? Is it a monetary number? Is it a number of followers, number of website visits? Is it a Google ranking? Whichever agency you're working with will be able to get you to that point with the right budget, of course. But identifying that at the start avoids problems later, because one of the problems that we've seen over the years is if the end goal is not clear, there's going to be problems along the way, because what success means may have different meanings to either party. So defining whether it's Google rankings or something else.
Maybe just on the technical side a little bit, any action you can, so the call to action, basically you can measure it. If set up properly, of course, so you would know that a person reached that point on your website or bought that product, and you're even able to track which channel they came from. And for your question about Google and Facebook and how to fight them, actually, you're their customers, so you're not fighting against them. They're mostly here to help you because they're advertising company. Their goal is for you to be able to advertise easily on their services, so they have all the right tools available for you.
Great. Well, it's perfect timing. It brings us to the end of our session. Can we have a round of applause for the Lexicon team? A big thank you to Dave, Max, and Justin. And they are our corporate sponsor for Sundowners tonight. I'd also like to thank the Western Grand Sukhumvit for the venue here at the briefing. They are also, of course, our Sundowner sponsor. They've got